So what I'm going to do is show you the nutritional things that we did to make the P90X program work really well. And that is, we stayed away from canned foods and stayed away from a few things that I will talk about as I go along. But basically it's fresh fruits and vegetables and very simple preparation. So I'm going to show you how first for breakfast, and also just, you know, for dinner, it's kind of the same thing. Here's an example of our fresh fruits and vegetables that we prepare, chop them up, and then we add them with our protein, which here in this case for breakfast is going to be eggs. And just so you know, in the afternoons, the thing that we do is we have a Shakeology shake, and then for dinner we basically, you know, would have a chicken or steak or something like that, plus our fresh veggies, either barbecued. I actually have a nice grill right here for the veggies, or we'd basically prepare them in a pan. Now the pans that we use, by the way, are stone dine pans. You want to stay away from those Teflon pans because they scrape, and you should look them up because you get the particles from the Teflon in your system and they're toxic, so that's not a good idea. So anyways, the other thing is that you want to use grapeseed oil whenever you cook or whenever you use anything. But what you want to do is keep it to a minimum. We got this from Costco, super inexpensive. It's about, I don't know, $7-8 for this, you know, huge thing. Whenever we need to use oil, we use that because it's healthy, and we try to avoid using oil. So whenever I try to fry something, like for example with this, I'm going to use basically water and a few spices, and that's it. Okay? So here we go. Okay, so I'm cooking for Veronica and I, and also too we share a little bit of our breakfast with Angelina whenever we can. So what I'm doing is I'm separating out the egg yolks from the egg whites, and you don't want to eat the yolks because they're high in cholesterol and they have a lot of calories in them. And you know, with our P90X program, they actually provide you with a nutritional guide, and we're following it, you know, pretty much as it's intended to be. So what I use to separate these out is it's basically a salad tong. So let me show you this here. It's a salad tong. And so I just scoop up the egg, and you see the yolk there, and I just, you know, push it against the side to break the yolk from the egg white, and then dump the yolk. Normally I do this in the sink, but right now I'm trying to make a video out of this, so, and sometimes the yolk breaks, but you know, it's okay because, you know, 1 or 2 yolks for 2 people is not really a bad thing, so you don't have to worry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this egg whites and I'm going to add a little almond milk. We used to use regular milk and then hand blend it, you know, with one of these hand blenders, and that would then become basically what we would use either for omelets or for an egg scramble. It kind of makes it a bit, you know, frothier. Okay, so this is the egg whites, and here's the hand blender. Very simple. Just make it so that it whips. Okay, that's good. All right, so as I mentioned, we're just going to throw that in here, and the next part is going to be preparing the vegetables. So just so that you know, one of the things that we add in for a little bit of flavor and a little bit of protein is something like this, which is chicken sausage. Now this is a processed food, and it does have a little sodium in it, a little too much normally. We do normally avoid something that's processed and packaged and has sodium in it. But just one thing out of our entire diet for 90 days, not necessarily every day, is really not such a bad thing. So we did it, and you know, things worked anyway. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dice up all this stuff, and then I'm going to put it in the pan. Okay, so the way that these stone dine pans work is that you don't just dump a bunch of grease in them and then cook with them. What you do is you put a few drops of oil on the pan, you take a paper towel, and basically work it in so that it has like a sheen to it. And once it's kind of coated like that, you know, you haven't used that much of the oil. And you just throw that away. And then you throw in your veggies, which I forgot to finish this. Anyways, your veggies go in. Chop them up, nice little bite-sized morsels. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of water, which I don't happen to have handy. Here we go. Okay, so it's basically, come on in a little closer. So it's basically going to be just enough water that you would want to boil off, that by the time that it's boiled off, they'll be done. And then we're going to add in our spices. Okay, so here is some of the stuff that I use. I happen to be a big fan of Bragg's. Bragg's is famous for their apple cider vinegar, but they also happen to make some other very fantastic seasonings. This is a kind of like an allspice, generic herb mix. You know, it's good for a lot of stuff, and it's an excellent blend. It's not too overpowering in one way or the other. This is a sea kelp. It's a salt substitute. So you know, if you want things to be a little salty, put that in there. By the way, I forgot, pepper goes in the eggs whenever you cook eggs. Okay, it's good to have that in there. And the other thing is a little dash of vinegar. Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but vinegar actually helps to normalize your glycemic index. So yeah, it's got to be whole natural apple cider vinegar. And by the way, a couple other things that we use on a frequent basis. Let me turn this heat on, get this rolling. I'll add the zucchinis in a second. This is Bragg's ginger and sesame salad dressing, because we have salads, you know. That's one of the things that you want to have in your diet for variety is salads with some protein of some sort. Use a little olive oil if you need olive oil to taste. We do use grapeseed oil mostly, but sometimes I use this for barbecuing because it's got a really great flavor to it. And also this is a really fantastic cheese substitute. This is like all protein pretty much. It's a nutritional yeast, and I use it on a lot of things whenever I want to give something a slightly cheesy flavor. So any dish that you would add cheese to, you can just throw a little bit of this on and it works fantastically. So this is now cooking. By the way, one of the things that we do, which is not necessarily recommended, is that we have coffee. And one of the things that we do with our coffee is we add agave for sweetener. And we add the almond milk, which by the way, Silk just started recently producing this almond milk, and it's fantastic. It tastes better than the previous ones that we've been using. Okay, so here we go. I've got the eggs basically done for the scramble part here. I've shut them off while the other part finishes up. And just wanted to give you a quick note about alcohol. My wife and I live in wine country. We enjoy wine. We have wine like once, twice a week. You know, we do everything we can to just stick to just one glass of red wine. We try to avoid white because white has a lot more carbs to it. So red is better for you than white is. And besides, red wine has, you know, resveratrol and things like that in it, antioxidants. You know, so you want to try to, you know, use red instead of wine wherever you can. We use red for cooking. So anyways, these veggies are getting ready to be done, and then I'll just combine them with the eggs and finish up the scramble, and then we'll have our breakfast, and it will be great. You know, with the kinds of things that we use, just so that you know, on a fairly regular basis, we use a lot of different sorts of vegetables, like for example, a lot of asparagus, green beans, you know, anything that you can pick up from a farmer's market, any kind of fresh produce. You just chop it up into bite-size bits, and then, you know, put it in a pan like this. Or if it's something bigger like asparagus, what you want to do is just, you know, lay it in your pan. One thing that's really great is take your asparagus, lay it in a pan, start cooking it, throw on a little fish, and by the time that you know, the fish is done, because it cooks quickly, you'll have a really nice dish if you use some of these spices. It's pretty simple. You just stick to these basic things, and you'll be able to do this with no problem. If you got any questions or advice, just give us a call, or I'm sorry, send an email. Alright, so here we are, we're done with boiling off the water. Okay, combine that, shut that off. Mix these in together really good. You don't have to do this long. You don't want to recook the eggs, basically. Okay, so after you've got these combined, just throw them out on plates. That's really hot. And pretty simply, there's a nice, yummy scramble. Piece of cake, not hard, healthy, and it's what got us through the P90X without any problems. We've got us some great results.